Thanks for taking the time, Coach. We'll start with Ruben, and then we'll go to Dave.
Hey, Nick. After the game, a lot of the guys talked about uh, taking their foot off the gas and quotes like that, just how they maybe thought they had the game won when it was 22-0. Just wondering what you can do as a coach as you see that happening um, in those situations, what you can do to try to stop it and change that.
I actually, I actually felt like our guys played with relentless effort the entire game. If you ever sense that, then you talk about it and you say, hey, you say whatever you need to say to snap everybody back in. But I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like our guys, like, we have a tough physical football team that's not only physically tough, they're mentally tough. And part of being mentally tough is playing with relentless effort. So I felt like we were playing with relentless effort. Listen, a couple fluky plays happened, and it got him back in the game, and that's life in the NFL. That's life in football. And so I didn't feel that. I haven't talked to the guys about that. I know the guys would, we talk about everything, so they come up and talk to me about that. And so we'll check back later on that. I just didn't feel that in the game, and like I said, sometimes you feel that and just like going through the motions. I just didn't feel that. I just felt like there was other things that happened in that game that led to it being a tight game. But it's the NFL. There's going to be tight games.
Thank you.
We'll go to Dave and then Elliot.
Hey Nick, when you went back and watched those two failed sneaks, what did you see there? And is there anything that would make you hesitate about calling that play again?
Obviously, we've been highly productive on that play. You make decisions like that, whether it's a fourth down decision or whether it's a 2-point conversion from the 1 yard line. I think that I think that every time we've had a 2-point opportunity from the one, we've taken advantage of that and went for it. And that doesn't mean we've always gotten it, but we've went for it. So you trust your process in that scenario. You trust all the work that you've done to help you make that decision. You trust your players in that scenario. I'm not going to get into the things that Jacksonville did to stop that, but they obviously did a very, very good job, and credit to them to stop a play that's been very successful. You can't overreact again to a play that's had as much as success as that's had the last 3 years. So we have a ton of confidence in it. And again, a play, you don't have confidence in a play unless you have confidence in the players. And that's where it comes down to. But did we talk about things as an offensive staff on things that we could do better, wrinkles that we could have, different things that we could do off of it? Of course we did. That's our job as coaches. But you look at that and you think any time that you fail on something, it's an awesome opportunity for you to rise. And that's what I feel like we did today as a staff, and then with the players, and we'll move on and get better from it.
Nick, you had said after the game you were going to take a look at some of the situational play calls you made, the 2-point conversions, the fourth downs. I'm curious, after reviewing that, if you still feel those were the right decisions, or if there is maybe one or two of those you want back.
Sure. Again, anytime it doesn't go how you want it to go, you're going to go back and look at everything. That's our job. Our job is to get better. If we want our players to get better, then we have to be in the mindset. Looking back on it, and I'm thinking, would I do anything different? And to be honest, sometimes I say absolutely. In this particular case, I felt like we did the right thing in all those scenarios, and I understand that I'll always be judged on the outcome, not the process. But I have to make sure that I stick to the process. Same with the players and our preparation throughout a week. We always have to stick to our process, and we've been really good at that, and it's helped us win a lot of games. And so, again, it's a lonely place. It's definitely a lonely place when you don't convert a fourth down, because I'll always take that on my shoulder. Shoot, if we, always. But at that time in that game and what we've done in the past, I was doing everything I thought to help our football team win the football game. And shoot, and I talked to the players about this a little bit. Like, 2 weeks ago, when I was explaining the 4th and 3 that we went for against the New York Giants, I circled the players and I said, I don't go for this unless I trust, and I circled Jalen on the screen and I circled AJ on the screen, and we converted. So you have that same trust. You trust, not only do you trust your process, but you trust your players. And doing those two things, trusting your process and trusting your players, has given us a good track record of it. But hey, it didn't work yesterday. It's a lonely place when it doesn't work. But again, I don't know any other solution than to trust those two things and always constantly try to get better.
We'll go to Jeff and then John.
Nick, Lane Johnson had a strong game. He didn't allow a pressure. He's talked a little bit about, what he's done more as a leader in terms of being vocal, kind of picks his spots when he wants to. But it seems like this season in particular, he's done more of it, maybe perhaps because there's no more Jason Kelsey. What have you seen from Lane in that regard? And what stands out in particular, maybe even an anecdote about when he's come to you and spoke to you about something that he's felt passionately about?
Yeah, Lane, first of all, Lane played awesome yesterday against I think number 44 for Jacksonville is a phenomenal football player, and I thought Lane just did an awesome job against a really good player. It was great to see good player versus good player. I got so much confidence in Lane that, he is a special player. And his play speaks for itself, and it's done that. I've always seen him from afar, and then the 4 years I've been here, he's just been one of our best players at all times. Lane does a great job of leading by example. Lane does a great job of really. I always admire that Lane always points out to the scout team players how much they're helping him get better and how much they're helping us get better as a team. And I think that's I think you praise different people, you do different things like that, but I always admire that of Lane, of that how good he's been encouraging those guys. I think anytime Lane comes off the field, he's got a great feel in game of when to make suggestions and why you're making those. You can go back. There's a lot of different things that are said on the sideline, but Lane has a really good feel. You can see it in Lane's eyes, like, hey, we're going now. Let's go. I want this play or that play. When he's working him and Mekhi had some combination blocks yesterday that were unbelievable. It was really exciting. Mekhi played a really good game also. And so you feel that from Lane coming off, and then you talk to him, and he has great suggestions coming off of, hey, and they're the ones out there playing the game. They're the ones out there feeling it. Like we might run a play based off a certain technique or a certain look or whatever it is, but you're not getting the look of exactly what it is of them out there. So I think Lane's awesome in that. He's been awesome in that. Every year I've been here, and I think even more so now. With his leadership continuing to take a rise. I think, again, just like Lane's been a good leader and the captain since I've been here, but I see just an awesome leader that's continuing to get better at his craft, as a tackle, and his craft as being a leader of this football team.
We'll go to John and then Tim.
Hi, Nick. In that sort of deep shot to Devontae, not the touchdown, but the 46-yarder, it was more traditional play action under center. Looked like Kellen's been setting that up for a couple weeks. How important? Because you guys had success in Cincinnati, but it was more from the gun or play action from that standpoint. How important is it to get that more traditional look, or is it not?
Again, you try to marry things to look like the run game that you're doing. So if the run game that you're trying to marry a play action with is under center, then you do that. If the run game that you're trying to marry the action with is from the gun or the pistol, then you do that. If the run game, if it includes a motion, then you include that. And so again, you're just trying to marry things and mesh things together to to put as much deception in the mind of the defense as you possibly can. Great call by Kellen in that particular case. Well executed by our players. Jalen made a perfect throw. Smitty ran a perfect route and beat his guy. And protection again, it was a really good sell. So good job by the Jalen in the back. And again, we had it wasn't one-on-one this time that Jack Stoll was in, but he had help from EJ. And they did a great job on the edge against a really good rusher. I think it was 44 there. And so they did a good job allowing Jalen. The pocket was firm. He allowed him to step up. And it was a big play in that football game to help us, turn the tide back in the momentum back in our favor. It was a really big play. Great call, great timing by Kellen, and then just well executed by our players.
We'll go to Tim and then Brooks.
Hey, Nick, what kind of update can you give us on AJ? And then, and also it looked like Saquon maybe was working through something. What can you tell us there?
Yeah, we'll see as the week progresses. Bummed anytime you don't have AJ in the game because he's such a great player. But we'll see how it goes. Haven't got with the medical staff today yet. I'll get with them a little bit later today. But AJ was in good spirits today. We'll see how it goes.
And Saquon?
Same. Yeah, he obviously was in playing. And so we'll see how the week progresses.
We'll go to Brooks and then Bob.
Hey, Nick, last week, whenever you were talking about Kellen, you said that you see him in the film, like watching film late. And some of the ideas, like you talked about the 3rd and 17 call yesterday. Whenever you see him working on plays like that, how far does he go back? What's maybe one of the stranger ideas that he's presented to you and kind of the source of his creativity?
Yeah, I think, all these, Kellen's a former quarterback. Every quarterback that I know they'll go back endless amount of times against a certain opponent or a certain style of defense or a certain situation. And, I've seen film from Dallas. I've seen with Kellen, I've seen film from the Chargers. I've seen practice film from both those teams that he showed us. And I've actually seen a couple plays from Boise. And so, I think that, he'll go back to get a look to be able to coach the guys and paint the picture to the offensive staff of what he wants. I admire that, because, that's you always got to paint a picture. Like you can draw it on the board and do, explain it. But everything comes to life with a picture. And that's how we try to coach our guys. And Kellen does that and leads the offense through that.
We'll go to Bob and then Zach.
Hey, Nick. Lane said yesterday he felt like you guys could have put up 40 points in that game. You guys have had 3 games now, I guess, Cleveland, New Orleans, and now this one where you really dominated the game statistically, and yet it came down to the wire. How do you view games like that when you really dominate a game statistically, but you sweat it out to the end?
Yeah, I don't like sweating it out. It's hard. That's always tough. You want to be able to put teams away, be able to pull away like we did against Cincinnati, be able to pull away like we did against the Giants. There's different. I studied that a bunch of 4-minute football or end of game blown leads or anything like that. We've talked a lot about that and studied that a bunch. There's a lot of different theories and philosophies that I have. One of them is always going to come down to turnovers. And being able to give them a quick score or short field when you do have a lead like that. Other things that go into that. Again, not going to get too much into it, but I'll give you a couple things. Another thing that goes into it is, explosive plays against your defense. And so you try to, but you still want to be aggressive. And you still want to play football. Like you don't go into 4-minute. It's called 4-minute football for a reason. So you don't go into that. Different times you go into that based off the score and this and that, but you don't go into that too early because that puts you down. I think that we've been good at winning games in these scenarios. When we've had 2-score leads, I don't know exactly what the records are. Is it always the prettiest? No. yesterday wasn't the prettiest, but they came back. Credit to them. They took advantage of a mishap that we had and got back into the game. Again, you're doing everything you can do to win the game in that time. Whether you're trying to shorten it while still being aggressive or shorten it altogether. But again, I think we've been pretty good with 2-score leads in the second half. You guys would have to tell me. But yesterday, obviously, you'd like to pull away, but that they're professionals, and they did a good job to close back into that game.
We'll go to Zach and then Chris.
Hey, good afternoon, Nick. I know Tuesday is the game planning day, but what was the reaction in the office today when the Dak Prescott news came out? And what value is Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier this week, given the knowledge they have on the personnel and some of the scheme there in Dallas?
Sure, you always think about the help you get from different guys that have been with different coaches, whether that's a player, whether that's a coach. So we'll use that throughout the week. As far as the Dak news, we'll see what happens. I know there's the long thing a lot of things that can happen. I have so much respect for the Cowboys and the how good they've been over the past. Since I've been in this division, they've won 12 plus games every year. And I got a lot of respect for their coaches and their players, and I know it's going to be a dogfight.
We'll end with Chris and then Bo.
Afternoon, Nick. In terms when it can be nerve-wracking time when the trade deadline's coming up, how do you approach dealing with a player whose name is popping up all the time in potential trade rumors or what have you, and how do you go about addressing that?
I'm sorry, Chris, say that again. With one of our players that is on it?
Yeah, if there's a player that whose name pops up in trade rumors and out there and stuff like that, how do you approach dealing with that player?
Yeah, again, I don't pay too much attention to it that are in trade rumors because, again, I know everything that's going on in our building with the communication that Howie and I have. So, the only way I would find that information out if I was scouring the internet for it, unless there was something that Howie and I had discussed. And so we like our team. We like where we are. I don't dive too much into that. Maybe I should to help players get through that. But, I urge them not to read things and get involved in that and control the things they can control. So I try to do the same.
We'll end with Bo here.
Hey, Nick, I'm just wondering, did you get any further clarification from the league on the Saquon fumble?
No, we'll get those back as we continue on. I'm sure you guys will ask me Wednesday. And as you look at it, we know they have a hard job to do. And we'll see what happens. But refs have a hard job to do. They got to do those things in split seconds, and then there's a lot of things going on as they review it and everything like that. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see, Bo, of what that is. I'm normally going to keep conversations with us in the league, or me with players, or me with other coaches, private. But we go through our process like we always do. But like I said, tough job that they have. And these things have a tendency of evening themselves out. You think you get screwed in one sense, and then you get a call, the next week or in the same game that you're like, man, we shouldn't have got that call. So, I guess it's easier said than done when you're going through it. I think you've seen me argue a call or two. So I've tried to tell myself in those scenarios, these things have a tendency of evening themselves out, and that they got a hard job and to move on to the next play. It doesn't mean we don't get animated at times, but you move on to the next play and control what you can control.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time, Coach.
Thanks, guys.